Hi there, welcome to Gnostic blog Confessio 1. This is going to be a weekly blog, and I'm going to try to keep it weekly as well because I need to get back to composing my music. I haven't done any music now for 2 months. I haven't even done any piano practice for about that about that long as well, which is terrible, really. I don't know. I'm going to forget everything. Um, the thing is that I need to. I've been really, really busy for the last 2 months getting my website together and writing basically 3 books, small books, but the writing is fairly intense, and obviously the subject matter of Gnosticism is very is obviously intense. Intense thoughts has gone into each item, and a lot of studying has gone into all this over the years, of course. And although I wouldn't claim to be an expert in any of it, really, just I run with things I pick up. It's like music. I don't like music theory. I'm not into it. I can't read or write music either. So I'm a bit. I just you know fly by the seat of my pants really, and just try to have a good time. I think it's much easier to talk about Gnosticism than it is to do it. It's much easier. It's certainly very difficult to write music, which is why I don't like doing it because I'm a natural slacker. I'm naturally lazy, and writing music means you have to actually work. It's actually you have to have do a day's work, which I find incredibly difficult, really. Um, and but electronic music's all right. That can be pretty kind of slacky, but classical music is demanding. It demands everything from you. You have to give your 100% to it, really. Otherwise, just don't really bother. And you know what I'm talking about. Same with poetry. You have to have that sheen. It has to be a diamond. You have to polish and polish and polish and polish until it has that kind of sheen about it. And that's good poetry. Good music has to have that. You can't do anything spontaneously and say that'll do because it won't do. You have to perfect it. Um, Having said that, I don't like Hermeticism at all. I think there is the Hermetic segment of my life anyway, and I've just found I've gone in a spiral, but ultimately a circle really. I'm just it is like the serpent eating its own tail. You're not getting anywhere at all really. It's entertaining, and watching videos on YouTube about Hermeticism is quite fun, but it actually doesn't get you anywhere. I'm thinking of it like it's sort of apocalyptic survival, really. But ultimately, you're going to die because you just haven't got what it takes to survive, and the demiurge pretty much controls all the levels of esoterica anyway. So I mean, everything that you do is all. A hole is not a hole until you fall down it, admittedly, but the holes are there. I know they are, and the traps are all set and waiting for you, and the poisons are all in the various false chalices waiting for you to drink from them. But I don't mind. I watch American Theosophy Society videos. They're quite entertaining. And if I want to sort of pretend that I can believe in something, then I'll watch them. I don't like Orthodox Christianity, because you're praying basically to the demiurge, and the demiurge takes far more than it actually gives. I mean, the bank, wins. You go to Las Vegas, and the bank always wins. But so you rub the lucky Buddha, but it doesn't mean a thing really. You pray for a good intervening God, but I just don't think it's worth. I never got into praying for anything. Why should one pray to the demiurge, for a lucky break? It's against one's pride to do that. Really, one is too proud. One is not going to be a slave. to its power. And I think asking for a good intervention is confirming your slavery to the demiurge. Why ask for anything? I'm like those. I like those dogs, those stray dogs. They say uh, in Peking, China. You know, they're starving dogs, and they just sit on the sidewalk, and they never ask for food. They just sit there looking really sad, starving to death, and they don't ask for anything because they won't get anything. And then every day they go and pick up the bodies, and then possibly eat them as well. So the stray dogs of China, that's what I feel like, really. Why should one should just rather die than ask for food from one's oppressors, from the people that don't care about you, which they don't. Anyway, so that's my rejection of Orthodox Christianity, my rejection of Hermeticism as well, and Theosophy for that matter. So you may say, well, what on earth is left? And here we have the symbol of the chalice. Well, you go into meditation, what I call spontaneous introspection, which is a bit like the Society of Friends, when they gather and they just go into silence. And they don't expect anything to happen. They're not looking for anything to happen. They don't expect anything to happen. If the Holy Spirit moves somebody to say something, then nobody says anything in return. It's just there at face value. Whatever people say is there at face value, and you don't say anything back. You don't argue. You don't say, well, I don't agree with that. You just nod your head. Well, you don't even nod your head. You just remain in silence. It's a beautiful system. I like it. Because, if there's no God, no soul, if there's just oblivion ahead of us after we've died, then everything will continue in silence, But if there is a God, and if there is, and this God has a will, and the Holy Spirit and the Holy Grail represent the will of the Holy Spirit, and we saw that the revealer, Jesus Christ, was also said that he did the will of his God. Then if there is one there, then by the will of this God, by its grace, you might have an experience which will connect you to the ineffable realms. Or you might not have it, might not have the experience because the God might not send you anything, And I said before that you might well wake up one day, and there we are. You've woken up in the ineffable realm. You didn't have to do anything to get there. It's unconditional love that we're talking about. But why would the unconditional love really make itself known to you? It wouldn't really need to, would it, really? But if there is nothing, if there is just oblivion, then you're just being peaceful and quiet about the fact that there is nothing. You're going into nothingness when you meditate in preparation for death. And that's all there is to say about it, really. And somebody can say something in the circle of the Quakers, and nobody responds. Everyone just takes it as face value because, it doesn't matter. There could be nothing, there could be everything. It's almost, in terms of value, the same thing. You're just sitting quietly, meditating, and being quiet, and not ranting and raving like I normally do, and not being over emotional like I normally am, and not being anxious and screwed up and neurotic and completely off my face, which I normally am, which I have been anyway. You're just you're just as you are. You're just being yourself. You're not being mad. You're not being sad. You're not being bad. You haven't got a good agenda attached to bad methods. I mean, I've tried teaching, with Black Zen and Black methods. I just got deplatformed by YouTube. They didn't think it was funny. They didn't think it was good. They didn't understand the higher purpose. And so off you go. We don't want you on our servers anymore. Go away. So it's their server, so they can do what they like with it. Well, I don't think they can actually, but that's another story. Anyway, so I intend to sit here. I just, and not even every day because it's spontaneous introspection. So when I feel like being introspective, when I feel like having cultivating the vision of the Holy Grail, when I feel like introspecting, I just will when I feel like it, and I won't feel like it most of the time, probably. And or maybe I'll go through periods of life feeling like I want to do it every day, and then not other times, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me particularly either, really, because if it's the will of the God to make itself known to you, and to give you an experience or to give you gnosis, that's great. If it isn't the will of the God, that's great as well. You're probably, because it's unconditional, you're probably on your way to waking up in the absolute reality in ineffable worlds anyway. So this is where you're headed. Soul is headed home. And why would you want to do anything about it? I mean, why would you want to follow some kind of hermetic, esoteric path of self-development, of soul awareness development, which is what all this gubbins represents, or the spiral of going nowhere? There's no need to do anything. Slack off, just slack. I just, it's like shooting an arrow at a target, right? Why try and hit the target? Why not just fire the arrow into the air? Because if God is the infinite target, you're going to hit you're going to hit the target because it's infinitely big. It's the air, it's the sky above you. Why try and select a point and try and hit that point with the arrow? Because in this world, maybe it demands that, following Suzuki's what's it called, total TQM, total quality management. You've got to fix on a target. You've got to hit the target with your arrow. Okay, that's all very good for the business world and the commerce and all that kind of stuff and running a business. I can accept that. But we're not running a business here. We're just slacking off. We're just firing an arrow anywhere, really, and the arrow will be fired. I like the idea of slack. I think if there is a God, then you can slack off about it. You don't have to pray to it. You don't have to do anything. And here we are, Bob, slack, which of course is the two. Well, actually, there are three elements to the Church of Subgenius, and I always forget the third one. It doesn't really matter. Slack and Bob. Well, slack is the main one, basically. Although I don't like the Church of Subgenius. I mean, they really are very unpleasant people to talk to, and they're run by a megalomaniac. And they're very unpleasant. They've got no sense of humour. Well, it's actually it's their sense of humour. You're not allowed your own sense of humour. You have to follow their sense of humour. So they're very much up themselves, really, and they're very unpleasant. And I actually would like nothing to do with the Church of Subgenius at all, apart from this word slack. And I've always been a slacker all my life, So I fit into the word slack. Maybe I do believe in God, which is the sort of Bob principle. But then Bob may be just a figment of my imagination, or a cultural construct, or a construct of certain algorithms in my brain. So there could be no such Bob. I mean, Bob or God or dog or whatever you want to call it. There could be a self-referencing part of my brain, and that's all that's being fired here. And then metaphysically, there is just oblivion. So when you die, there's nothing there. You just die and you lose consciousness forever. I came into this world from nothing, and I'll go back to being dead with nothing. On the other hand, maybe there is a God, but that God should have a will. If it doesn't, I don't know why it's a God. I mean, if it's a sort of a ball of mist, an impersonal Brahmin, then it might as well be oblivion, mightn't it? Because what's the point of experiencing an impersonal Brahmin, Brahman's energy, an impersonal God? It's the same as oblivion, isn't it? Really, and if there's no way of accessing the deist concept of God, then you might as well have oblivion as well. If you can't take it with you, why bother? So Hermeticism, why bother tuning your brain, tuning your psychic vehicles, if they're actually not going to go anywhere, if they're actually of no use whatsoever? And praying to God may be of no use whatsoever either. So you just have to go into your peace and quiet, into your meditation, whenever you want to. And if a God makes itself known to you, that's fine. If it doesn't, that's fine. And if there is oblivion ahead of us after death, that's fine as well, really. But so that's sort of my confession of the day of the week, anyway, is that I confess that I don't like Hermeticism and Theosophy. They have no value to me, and I don't like Orthodox religion either. I don't like praying for help or anything. Why should I? Why should I pray for help from the demiurge, which which a Gnostic rejects out of hand? And why should I think that there could be a God or Jesus or Holy Spirit, when in fact there could not be any of these things at all? And I let go of attaching value to the ontological existence of any of these things. You just simply go into your meditation whenever you want to. Otherwise, the rest of the time you're in slack. You're in slack mode, which is a beautiful mode to be in, which is a mode that I have trouble with being in because I'm so ambitious and so avaristic and totally emotional and totally unreasonable and totally sort of. But I can't be bothered to make any of my dreams come true. So I'm caught in the horns of a dilemma. So this is my confession, and I may have another one next week.